Okay, so welcome everybody to the latest online presentation from Leeds Theosophical Society. We've been doing these now since 2020. We're coming up to our 5th anniversary for doing these, and we like to try and present a very wide and diverse program of speakers and interviews and conversations. And we're delighted this afternoon to welcome Dr. Mervat Nasser, who's a graduate of the Cairo Medical School and also the Royal College of Psychiatrists in London. And she served as a clinical psychiatrist and a university academic in England from 1977 until 2007, when she took early retirement from her job in the UK and returned to Egypt to pursue a dream. And that dream was to establish the project of new Hermopolis, which is an eco-village about, I think, 200 miles south of Cairo. And since then, she's dedicated herself entirely to this particular cause. So welcome, Dr. Nasser, and thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's go back to the very beginning. When did this dream of yours for New Hermopolis, when did it actually start?
Well, thank you very much for hosting me. Well, it goes back a very long time. I would say since the time I arrived in England. I arrived to England in 1977, as you rightly said. As a young doctor, I was only 25 years old, even less than 25, and got into psychiatric training straight away because I was very interested in psychiatry anyway as a medical graduate, and generally interested in the interface between mind and humanities. So I am interested in literature, poetry, philosophy, mythology, all these things. So psychiatry was really the kind of medical specialty that is going to help me combine both fiction and nonfiction in a way, or allows my imagination and my in-depth interest into the psyche of the human being and how the mind of man operates. So that was actually the reason for choosing psychiatry. And I left Egypt at the time. The late 70s were actually the beginning of what we would call the rise of political Islam and the heat of extremism, which wasn't really heated then, but you could see the signs of it, the rise of fundamentalism, extremism, dogmatism, and all the things that I was brought up on as a child in Egypt and also as a young adult and medical student and a university student in Cairo were all receding. So I would like to say that I was actually properly educated in Egyptian schools and also in my medical school. It was very good. I was extremely fortunate to receive good medical education as well. But I realized there and then that things are starting to change in a big way and deteriorate in a big way culturally in Egypt. And it was no longer the Egypt I am familiar with or I can live with. And since I was a child, I was all the time thinking of myself as part of a whole. So the kind of collective responsibility for the environment around me has always been with me since I was a child. I remember that that I pleaded with my father and my aunt, who was a teacher, to take me to the Minister of Education to ask him to open the school libraries in the summer months So we can actually have plenty of time and opportunities for the children to read the books that were in the school libraries and were not available elsewhere.
So,
Uh,
just to
yeah,
interrupt you,
yeah.
your dream, your vision to create this place, was that a direct result of what was happening religiously and politically in Egypt at that time?
Yeah, if you want to put it in simple phrase, yes, it was the right response. But of course, I couldn't go around it like this because I was still young, unequipped, not properly educated, not properly involved with Egyptology, and also more than Egyptology as a tangible thing, like archaeological science. I was more interested in how the ancient Egyptian mind operated and created all these things because I was very saddened by the divorce and the kind of psychological alienation of the Egyptians with their ancient past, which actually I thought was the root of all that is harmony and all the problems that we were facing, or the kind of downward path that Egypt was going through. And that has been going on for some time. And I took the opportunity of coming to England because for me, England actually represented two things: a big library and also theater that I really love. So it was all that, as well as that we value the medical education in England. My father was a doctor and all his life wanted to become a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons. Sadly, he died in 1973 as he was conscripted as an army general, but with medical backgrounds to actually help medically in the war. So all these things together with the decline in the values that I cherished all my life and the disfiguration of the country that I love, I felt that there was a need for a response. As I said, I could not respond straight away because I was in some ways an insignificant little thing. So
Okay, yeah. So in
yeah.
so in 2007, you've been thinking about trying to recreate something which reflects older spiritual values in your country. So tell us specifically what you did when you got back to Egypt, what the vision was to create this eco village of a number of different buildings. Tell us about that.
Well, I chose this particular site because it was the city of Hermes, or the city of Thoth. Thoth in ancient Egypt is the god of wisdom, is the messenger who between heaven and earth, the one who conveyed all arts and knowledge, and the one who believed in the potential creativity of all human beings. So I couldn't have found a better site to actually try to revive, not revive it in a kind of revive the antiquity itself, although there is something linked to that as well, but to revive the spirit of the ancient city of wisdom and the ancient city of harmony, because this city is not only the city of thought, writing, creativity, and continued renewal and regeneration, but also it was the one of the creation of the seeds of creation in ancient Egypt mythologically, because it is the site where harmony was born. Because in ancient Egypt, it's called the city of the eight. And the eight are the four elements of nature, of the cosmos, which is water, air, fire, and earth. For the ancient Egyptians, all these elements had feminine and masculine uh, equivalence. So that says so that the four feminine principles, the primordial feminine principles, married the masculine ones, and harmony was born. That's why it is called the City of Eight, which is actually the four elements, the primordial sources of the universe that we live in, and which is really, there is an ancient Egyptian concept called not yet being, which really shows that being is an ongoing something. It is not a one-off incident. It is an ongoing process that involves becoming, and becoming is part and parcel of the being. So the Egyptians really had that, which really for me was the essence of what Hermopolis is about. Even our T-shirt, it says being is becoming. So that is actually our slogan.
So how did you acquire this particular site, and how did you raise the finances to do all these things? Because creating a new city, even a relatively small one, is a large undertaking. So how did you go about this?
Absolutely. I sold everything I own. I became very, very poor. I impoverished myself deliberately. I had a flat in London, which was my last post was in London. And with the money I had, I actually put it all with any other savings I had into this project. I didn't receive any funding. I didn't receive any contribution. In fact, I started at a very difficult time because this area in particular was that, because the choice of it as well was if you were talking about the rise of political Islam or fundamentalism, this was the area that was almost the capital of fundamentalism, despite the fact that it has almost equal Christian population, and in some villages, the Christian population outnumber the Muslims. So it has also a kind of religious friction and strives and disharmony and everything. So it was really like challenging myself that if you want to do a development, if you want to alter the overall consciousness of this country and to connect with an ancient wisdom, I really had to go to the worst part of it. That happened also to be the part of creation and creativity and wisdom. So that, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Well, if you established it in an area where political Islam was very strong and very prominent, although there were Christians there, what kind of opposition did you get from the religious authorities or the political authorities locally or nationally? Presumably, they didn't want this to happen.
Well, not really, because I don't present, I actually am one of the believers that Egypt did not produce religion. It produced a way of thinking, a way of life. So what I was trying to revive is a way of life to help humanity to cope with the discord and the fragmentation that is happening, be it in Egypt or for the whole world, because we are all in the same predicament anyway. And this is what I came to realize, that it is not a beacon of light to Egypt only, that it can possibly become a beacon of light for the rest of the world and a seat of healing. Healing is about remembering, and remembering is putting the pieces that are fragmented or scattered together, but also through memory. So you are revisiting a space of memory to actually collect the fragmentation, the fragmented pieces, which is very much like Isis trying to recollect the body of Osiris. And so it is that.
So when did you actually begin the building work on the site? How long did that take to organize?
Well, it all started in 2007 when I actually arrived to Egypt, and as I said, just I knew nothing about even how things. Of course, I was up to date with the cultural scene and what is going on, and what I will be up against, and everything. But nothing really prepared me for what I was going to face, because I chose also the most difficult path, which is to take a piece in the desert, very close to the ancient Hermopolis, the ancient site, where the scribes who worked in ancient Hermopolis, which is Ashmonin, which comes from Shimnu or Khimnu, which means the city of eight, were buried. And one of them was Bituziras, who was the scribe at the time of Alexander the Great, when the whole area was renamed Hermopolis after Hermes. Because I take the point that Greek times, or what we refer to as Hellenistic Egypt, was actually a time of transformation for the Greeks more than the Egyptians. So, because the Greeks were very used to the idea of the small polis that has kind of direct democracy and a clear territory and boundaries. And anyone outside this polis is barbarian. So they were, they were the ones. Egypt was completely different. The city in ancient Egypt was an enlightening space and was supposed to be cosmic space because the Egyptians believed, in a rather grandiose manner, that Egypt was the mirror of heaven on earth. So so it is the temple of the world. So the temple of the world doesn't necessarily mean religion of the world. It means a sacred space. It means something that we cherish and we hold dearly. So that was really what I was after. When Alexander the Great arrived to Egypt, he had this idea, which again, a very grandiose idea, of building an empire that combined East and West. And for Egypt to become the center of it, which then after that it became Alexandria. But how could he do that? And all his officers and soldiers and the people who came with him were actually shattered by the fighting between the islands in Greece, between the different polises, the different areas. And they had what we call now, or what I like to refer to as the first globalization, that they were starting to question who they are and what to belong to, and what is my identity. So there was a need for a cosmic identity, for something that could help these people. When Alexander the Great arrived, and he arrived to that site actually, he realized that the place is full of Persians, Indians, Arabs who came from the Arab Peninsula because it was the land of opportunities, opposite to what is happening now, that the Egyptians go to the Gulf. But and also he could see that they were Greeks. Even they were Greeks before Hellenistic times, because we know that Pythagoras was influenced by ancient Egypt, Plato, all these things. So it was for him a site that responds to his own predicament, how to bring all his people together into one group.
Okay. Now, the architecture of New Hermopolis is very distinctive. Perhaps you could describe it for us, and perhaps you could describe how this architecture was inspired.
Well, it was inspired actually by a local site, and this type of domes are not present in Egypt except in Minya, which is where Tun al-Gabal and Ashmonin are and all that, and the New Hermopolis. In an area called Zawiyat Sultan or Zawiyat al-Mayitin, which is a huge city built of mud brick in the shape of these cuneiform domes. These cuneiform domes, of course, building it in mud brick was a lot easier. I actually built it in stone, which is really much harder to build that in stone. So that was the direct inspiration. But after that, when we talk about the progression of the Hermetic idea and how it traveled through many nations and many places, I discovered that the first settlement of the Hermetics when the new Platonist philosopher Hypatia was killed in Alexandria was in Haran, which is now Turkey. Also, the domes there are made in such a way. Also, we find that in a place in Italy, very close to Puglia, we have also similar cuneiform domed structure that is very, very beautiful. And then I came to realize that Federico II, who was an emperor, and we know about him, and they call him the pre-Renaissance man in some ways. He actually became interested. He came with, although he wasn't very happy about coming to Egypt, with St. Francis of Assisi for one of the Crusades, and mixed with the early Arabs who were settling in that area as well as in the area of Hermopolis, of ancient Hermopolis, because also it became very important in the writings of the early Muslims and Arabs who translated the Emerald Tablet. And it was very close to another area, which is Panopolis or Akhmim, where alchemy was born. So he actually took the idea, and so it is not an architecture symbol as such that comes from native Egypt, but also an architecture symbol that was applied to other areas that were almost hermetic or semi-hermetic.
How long did it take you to build the site, and is it finished now, or do you have more work to do? Do you have more buildings to construct?
Well, it is built on 10 acres of land, and it is divided into three parts. The farm, which an eco farm, a green farm, that we grow olive groves, and also we revive ancient trees that are threatened by extinction. Such as the sycamore tree, which was the tree of life. But then we have the hospitality center, which is really the shape of the New Hermopolis that is copied and transmitted everywhere, where the building is. And the building tries to respond to, as I said, to act as a hospitality center, but also as a venue and medium for cultural events and activities, performances, etc. And then we have a culture center with library and all conference facilities, symposia, etc. And there is a land which is about 3 acres, which is actually still, and I don't think I will build it in my lifetime. I'm hoping to have a kind of hermetic community that will decide to come and build it and create something there. And the whole thing will be actually given to the International Hermetic Academy that we are in the process of creating now. So that is how it started. The building is started in 2009, because it was desert, it took me 2 years to find this piece of land, because I wanted this special location, and it wasn't easy because I am the first one to be allowed to build next to the antiquity. So it is within walking distance from the antiquity. So it is a very strategic site, and it's also very close to all the other sites in the area, including Amarna, which is Akhenaten's city, which is, of course, is important for all the Rosicrucians and some of the Theosophists as well. So it is, and the building is started because I wanted it to be in stone. We were not allowed to use the limestone quarry or the sandstone quarry that is in the area. So I had to get all the stones and also the stonemasons from Fayoum, which is about 100 miles from us, and to have them for almost a year building this place. And it finished actually at the time when this so-called Arab Spring started. So, and I was, everything in Egypt, it was real turmoil in the south, in the north, everywhere. And it resulted, so no one was interested in what I was doing. It may have been a blessing in disguise, because they were not interested in me and in what I was doing. There was total detachment because the country was in the grips of upheaval.
So, what sort of activities go on at the eco village now? What kind of things do you put on for people? What kind of events are there?
Well, we separate the events into two. There are ones that are some that represent the activity of the foundation, because I have an NGO in Egypt for the community development. And the community development actually it is wide, including teaching people how to farm in the desert and to be water thrifty, and not to try to build in the desert the same way they build in good land and everything. But and also how to keep and preserve the ancient flora and all these things, and their importance, and also the older architecture, because the villages in Egypt are soon disappearing, simply because with this creeping urbanization that has been happening everywhere. So what we do is we make ourselves available. Obviously, all the working force come from the villages around us. The village of Tun al Gabal and Derwa, that are the ones who are closest to me, are actually benefit directly and indirectly, because we buy everything from them. Also, all the maintenance people come from there. But we do lots of things for the children as well, and for the youth. We do like training camps, enhancing capacity, building skills, all these things every now and then. Obviously, when my money allows, because till now I am actually acting as a one-person show, with very lack of with true lack of support and no resources whatsoever. I'm only lucky that I have my space. So I try to take advantage of the kindness of some of the artists and people in Egypt who are friends with me, who can come and do some workshops, etc., and still do that. And we are going to inaugurate on our Easter Monday, which is actually the same like England, the 21st of April, the first summer school, community summer school for the children, which is going to use storytelling as an educational tool. as well as teach the kids how to learn stick dancing, which is an ancient dance that goes back to ancient Egypt. It's a kind of martial art, but it is to music. And so you are actually trying to help them to have a kind of musical awareness and musical talent, and to teach them the drumming and all these things. So yeah, that's going hopefully to start again, despite the lack of resources.
Now you have
For the,
sorry,
yeah,
you have a big event coming up, I believe, in October.
yes,
Would you like to...
exactly. That is the international part, which actually it started in 2015. But again, in 2015 up to last year, it was on a very small scale, and it was mainly community based and nationally. So I can invite some journalists, some writers, etc., to actually come and talk, and also some encourage our performers, local performers in music and theater, to do certain artistic activities. So which I call Thoughts Festival, which in fact is a revival of an ancient festival that celebrated the power of the creative word, because thought came with the word. In the beginning was the word. So that is actually, this is the place where we enshrine the significance of the creative and the power of the creative word. So that went on till last year, when I tried hard to extend my scope to international people. And we said, we are going to have an international symposium or conference, which was about, the theme was ancient wisdom and the future self. It was Hermetic philosophy and the making of the self in contemporary times or in our times. So it was used like using ancient wisdom as a new perspective, as a new paradigm for creating the new self. And I was extremely fortunate that I had incredible response from high people all around the world, including Walter Hanegraaff, including Aaron, who is my publisher of my book, and he's actually a philosopher in ancient religions, and also Charles Stang, who is the head of world relations in Harvard University. So there are quite a lot of people who are actually high up in the field, and God knows what made them believe in me and believe that I can actually hold something as big as this. And it was actually amazing. It was really, really amazing. So, and that was when we decided that we transform this space into a Hermetic Academy, and we continue to have an annual symposium. And yes, we are having a symposium in October. This October, the theme is going to be Hermes between Egypt and Italy. And it is all about wars in new renaissance. So it is trying to see how, because my ethos is actually how relevant this knowledge and this philosophy is to our times. This is why I started this project. That's why I'm carrying on with it. And this is how I believe it should be, that when people connect with this ancient wisdom, they will, hopefully, they themselves will become wise.
Are there people who live at New Hermopolis all the time? Are there permanent residents there, or is it just for people who are visiting? I mean, you say you've got a farm there, so presumably there are people who need to be there to run that farm.
Yes, and there are people who need to be there to run the hospitality center as well. because we have people who come. At the moment, we tried from the beginning, since its operation, that we only attract retreats. And these retreats could be meditation, yoga, reflection, creative writing. But also there are hermetic retreats, including things like theosophical societies. They haven't, because they only go to their own retreats, but I'm hoping that one day they will come. And I know I told Erica about it, and I hope that we can actually host one. But also there are other people that and I'm having people from England. I'm having there was actually in January a group, a Kabbalists from USA. So there are people who come, and teaching is offered by their own teacher or instructor, and they like the space because it is unique. In fact, it is not like any. It is not a hotel as a hotel, but we try to honor our hospitality mission by giving people good food and good care and good rooms and everything. So yes, it is there. And that, but we don't have people are actually local people are part and parcel of it, because they are the working force, and they are the farmers, and their children actually grow up in that space. So even when I have building, they bring their children, and the plumber brings his children, all these things. So it is really part and parcel, and we have outreach programs. We don't always have everyone there, and people are gradually becoming so proud of this ancient heritage, because they realize that it is also intangible. It is all about offering a different way of life. It is helping people to come to find themselves, and to recreate and remake themselves. So it is actually, it is a place that is psychotherapeutic. So it's also one of the retreats that could be psychotherapeutic retreats. So that is,
I think what's very interesting about what you say, Dr. Nasser, is the way that this community combines practical skills with the Hermetic arts, with ancient traditions such as music and dance and so on. So it's not just a one-sided thing, it's very practical in imparting skills to local people as well, yes?
absolutely, and this was the mission and the objective. It is how to make the past relevant to us, and relevant to venturing the future, to enterprising the future. So that is actually how this is a new language that that we seek from this past reservoir of ideas, that is going to equip us to make a harmonious future, and to create a new outlook on life, to highlight the importance of harmony that the ancient Egyptians dedicated a city for. And it is a city of creation, and creation cannot happen without integration of opposing forces, and acceptance of what is different and what is alternative. So this is for me the alternative Egypt that we want to celebrate, and this is the conceptual Egypt that we want to celebrate. So that is because Egypt is not just concrete things like pyramids, obelisks, or statues, or temples. It is the thought behind all these things that matter.
I think it's very interesting that this is happening at a time when many people in the world, many people who would describe themselves as spiritual people, are beginning to, shall we say, rebel against modernity, against technology, against centralization, against also the fact that people want to ignore the past. They seem to think that everything in the past doesn't fit with the present. But what you're trying to do is to use those valuable ideas from the past to create a new future. And that seems to me, at the moment, hugely significant in the world, because I think it's a general trend that a number of people are very, very attracted to, because they are repelled by a lot of aspects of modern life.
Absolutely, I can't agree more. And it is when I mentioned the term healing, it is really to heal the world, because we live in a very, very difficult times. And if we continue like this, we will go downhill more than what we are in now. But yes, we have a baggage in our past, which actually is a kind of utopian baggage that we can use, because the beauty, and that is actually one of the things that I like to emphasize, that it is not a religion, it is not a dogma, it is a way of life, and you are instrumental in making this philosophy work for you. You are a participant in it. You interact with the philosophy. It is not something that you passively take in and believe in and ritualistic carry out. It actually gives you ideas. It triggers your thoughts. It celebrates your brain. And this is, as a psychiatrist, is the way forward. Because also, as a psychiatrist, I noticed in the end that we have become, in our field, is a very reductionist. We are not encompassing. Let us face it, that the best psychiatric literature was not written by psychiatrists, was written by writers and poets, who were the ones who actually pioneered existence, who looked into existence in a different way. All the existential ideas that we know of are actually about this past. This past influenced people like Viktor Frankl, for instance, who actually could see that this is the essence of healing. This is you've got only one freedom, which is how to react to your circumstances. You can't change your circumstances. You can't change the prevailing structure or the prevailing ideas or philosophy. You work with it and parallel to it and make it better and make it stronger and make it prevail. This is actually the ancient Egyptian wisdom, and this is the Hermetic wisdom, which is about integral mind.
So what we're talking about here is almost a new kind of consciousness, a new way of thinking based upon ageless, ancient ideas, but looking towards the future, yes?
Absolutely. In order to help us remake our future and pioneer a new existence, we need to revisit that past, because it's full of ideas. It's full, as I said, it's utopian baggage. But we don't have to exercise it or to use it in a kind of fundamentalist way or a literal way. It allows you, because you are a participant. You are a co-creator with the idea. Yeah, it's not supposed to be a passive idea. It is an idea that invites you to participate in it and partake in it.
What plans do you have for the immediate future? You've spoken about the symposium later on this year. Over the next year or two, what ideas do you have to carry on other activities at New Hermopolis?
Well, there are already ideas almost for the next, the 2026 symposium. So it's going to run annually, and it's going to be on the same Thoughts Festival dates that we initiated in 2015. So hopefully after that is going to be about sacred spaces and the issue of wisdom, the temple of man and the temple of God. So how to make your own architecture actually a temple of God. So it is all about architecture, making the worldly or the unsacred sacred. And to make that, you have to be also ecological. You have to be you have to respect the environment. You have to respect all creatures, including trees, animals, etc. And you have to and find the potential in every individual. So this is how we are going on. But the immediate thing that we are working on, and is actually going to be a new trust in England. Is going to be registered as apart from my NGO in Egypt. That is going to be a Hermopolis Academy, which is going to be a teaching academy, and that is how we can then have events, retreats, study retreats as well. All these things, even offer certificates of education. I mean, who knows in the future? I may not be around, but I need to establish that before I'm gone. And I need to establish that this is a humane and humanistic space that is creative, that can actually work as a co-creative space between man and land. So that is how you can actually build architecture differently, make agriculture differently, make things sustainable, make things sacred again, make things valuable again. That is the idea. It may not appeal to everyone, but I'm sure. I mean, like. Imagine song says, I may not be the only one. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are people around. And that is the idea of talking to you and talking to all other societies. Hopefully, New Hermopolis will become one day a new Hermopolis in the ancient, in a new ancient thing that actually responds to the needs of the world at large and a space to be claimed by everyone, regardless of boundaries, nationalities, race, creed, all that.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nasser, for sharing your fascinating insight into this and your ideas, which I think will certainly resonate very closely with the participants this afternoon. Thank you again, Dr. Nasser, and goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.